people generally accept that this was a tough call. I think a lot of people are on the side.
I don't think so. DHS came out immediately and called her a domestic terrorist.
No, I'm sorry, no, that was a response. That was a response.
About normalizing militarized federal agents roaming the streets under the false pretense of mass deportations. I'm sorry, but the deporter-in-chief, Barack Obama, didn't have militarized ICE agents roaming the streets in order to do the proper operations.
Why?
What are we doing right now?
But why? Yeah, but if ICE has a detainer,
They don't honor
ICE doesn't have a detainer for all of these people that they're arresting.
The only people they have for Rikers Island, they have detainers on hundreds of people that just get released.
It is not the case that of the thousands of people that ICE has arrested and detained, that all of them are criminals.
In today's video, Abby Phillip and Ana Kasparian shut down Jason Rantz and Joe Borelli on Newsnight, with Abby Phillip as a fiery debate breaks out over ICE enforcement, civil liberties, and the militarization of immigration. As Jason Rantz and Joe Borelli defend hardline talking points, Abby Phillip and Ana Kasparian respond with facts, polling, and real-world consequences that quickly shift the tone of the conversation. So let's dive in and watch how Abby Phillip and Ana Kasparian shut down Jason Rantz and Joe Borelli on Newsnight with Abby Phillip.
Federal officers, maybe ICE agents, maybe Border Patrol, walking down the street, stopping people, sometimes because they look Somali or they look brown or whatever it is. This is according to those people who were stopped, and asking them, where are your papers? Show me your papers. Where were you born? That's the stuff that we're seeing. And Americans like Joe Rogan are concerned about it.
And I think part of it is, look, Joe Rogan's identity does not depend on defending Donald Trump and his administration doing things that are indefensible. And I see people all the time bending themselves on TV, bending themselves into all sorts of pretzel shape because they subsist from being a Trump supporter, and that's all they've got. Joe Rogan, I think, is speaking out of conviction, is speaking out of what he is seeing, and I think it's reflective of what a lot of Americans feel right now. People are showing up at the streets because they are pissed off at what is happening in our country. It is heartbreaking to see these images in America. We are the country that's supposed to be an example for the rest of the world. And the things that are happening in our streets are the type of things that happen in these third world countries. And they do bring all sorts of bad memories when you see these masked men targeting people. And it's not just Minnesota. I mean, we remember the woman who got pulled out of the street in Boston by masked men. We have seen pregnant women dragged. In Minnesota, we saw 2 young teenagers who were working at Target, like so many of our children do.
American citizens.
Have a job while going to school, being pulled out, while screaming, I'm a U.S. citizen, I'm a U.S. citizen, because they look Latino and they were Latino. That is un-American and unacceptable, and good for Joe Rogan for standing up and denouncing it. More of Trump supporters, if they want him to be a good president, should be doing the same.
Let me play what he said about the Renee Good video that we've been discussing. Listen.
It's complicated, obviously, but it's also very ugly. To watch someone shoot a U.S. citizen, especially a woman, in the face, when people say it's justifiable because the car hit him, it seemed like she was kind of turning the car away.
Now, Joe, what was really striking to me about this Quinnipiac poll, 53% said it was unjustified for the ICE agent to shoot Renee Good. But I was also really surprised by how this has penetrated. 82% of registered voters say they saw that video. So you're talking almost universal impressions of what happened there. Is it, I don't know, are Republicans misreading the situation or risking misreading the situation?
Look, if anyone saw last segment, right, I had no problem defending the officer, and I think Joe Rogan's factually wrong about his assessment. But I am a big Joe Rogan fan, and I listen all the time. And he is really emblematic of one of the most successful things Trump did in the campaign. It was to engage podcasters and win a lot of people who listen to that type of forum. I have a conversation in my head with Joe Rogan for hours every week. I'm a big fan, right? I talk to him. My gut reaction to something, I actually listen to him. So I do think this is a problem for Trump because I think he is a very good barometer of where people stand. Again, this instant, he might be factually wrong on. I think he is. But he is a good barometer of where a lot of Trump supporters are. And I would have, you know, they have the Waffle House indicator for a hurricane. Like if the Waffle House is closed, there should be a Joe Rogan indicator.
What makes Ana Navarro's side of this debate resonate is that the concern isn't hypothetical, it's backed by data and history. Civil rights groups like the ACLU have documented a rise in federal immigration stops that rely on reasonable suspicion standards so vague they easily slide into racial profiling. The Supreme Court has repeatedly warned that appearance alone cannot justify stops, yet reports from Minnesota, Boston, and Arizona show patterns that mirror past abuses during post-9/11 dragnet policing in American cities today nationwide. Ana's position also lines up with public opinion in a way Joe Borelli seems to underestimate. Recent Quinnipiac and Pew polls show majorities opposing aggressive ICE tactics, even among independents and soft Republicans. Historically, heavy-handed enforcement backfires politically. After Arizona's SB 1070, Latino voter turnout surged against Republicans for a decade. When ordinary citizens are questioned or detained, trust in institutions erodes fast. That erosion fuels protests, lawsuits, and costly settlements. Cities have repeatedly paid after unconstitutional policing campaigns across the country recently. Backing Ana Navarro doesn't mean denying border enforcement. It means recognizing limits in a democracy. Federal courts have ruled that militarized policing escalates violence rather than preventing it, a pattern seen during the 2020 federal deployments in Portland. When influencers like Joe Rogan voice concern, it signals broader unease. Ignoring that warning risked normalizing practices Americans historically condemned abroad. That's why accountability, transparency, and constitutional guardrails matter more than blind loyalty to any administration or political brand in moments like this, especially nationwide debates.
Can I just say, I actually think that what you just said, Joe Borelli, is important because there are probably, this is a little bit of a Rorschach test. Like, you can have 10 people watch this video and everybody's going to see something a little bit different. But what might end up really mattering is how people feel about what happened. And I think that there is this gut feeling in a lot of Americans that that is not something that they ever want to see happen in this country. And they don't blame Renee Good for her own death.
But I do think the Rorschach test in this, when you go and you look at this particular poll, I mean, it's also really different depending on your political ideology. Republicans overwhelmingly supported what happened, and Democrats the other way. The worrying part,
independents
well, that's the worrying part.
also say that they thought that this was unjustified.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, that's also a problem.
Yeah, that's my point. Is like the worrying part from Joe's point of, you know, Joe Rogan is speaking to a very specific crowd, and this is about a narrative. People see a video, they see one thing, other people see the other thing. So it really is going to come down to one's gut reaction to it. And I think most people, I thought actually tonight that the president handled a question on this rather effectively. I mean, he's arguing that it is in fact ugly, that we didn't want this to happen. There's no one out there celebrating what happened except for maybe the fringes of fringe on X. People generally accept that this was a tough call. I think a lot of people are on the side.
DHS came out immediately and called her a domestic terrorist.
No, I'm sorry, no, that was a response. That was a response.
About normalizing militarized federal agents roaming the streets under the false pretense of mass deportations. I'm sorry, but the deporter-in-chief, Barack Obama, didn't have militarized ICE agents roaming the streets in order to do the proper operations.
Why?
What are we doing right now?
But why is it?
And by the way, small government Republicans suddenly love having feds roaming the streets like this. Come on.
Not ever answered. Why is it that, I mean, why can't conservatives answer for that? Why was Obama able to deport so many people without creating anything like this?
Because there wasn't resistance. And that's an important piece that we cannot ignore.
No. That's not the reason.
I think that is the reason.
No, hold on. That's not the reason. It's not because there wasn't opposition to deportations. There absolutely was. It's because these types of raids were not happening.
Correct.
ICE agents were not walking around masked. That did not happen.
I mean,
none of that happened.
Do we concede that the level of resistance that's institutionalized from government agencies actually does matter?
Hold on.
That's
why is there resistance?
Right. Here's why.
Why is there resistance from the population about what
No,
ICE
it's the resistance. I think a lot of it is being fueled by how they are perceiving this based on media coverage that I don't think has been particularly fair.
Well,
but the difference,
Could
hold
it
on, let
be
me,
because of
let
what
me
they're
answer your
seeing
question.
in their own communities?
Let me answer your first question, because I think it is an important one, right? I mean, the resistance under Obama was not the same as what we're seeing now. We didn't have sanctuary cities and states and counties at the time. That matters. Here's why. Because when you're trying to make a deportation effort, when you're trying to engage in this, and you're being told that a prison is not going to hang on to someone who's already a criminal and release them out into the street, you are forcing ICE agents to go into communities.
Hold on. If all ICE was doing was simply getting those people that you're describing, again, I don't think we would even be sitting at this table having this conversation. The vast majority of the arrests that ICE is making are not of people who were just arrested for a violent crime. They are people who overstayed their visas. They are people who are going into courthouses
70% of criminal
have
records.
their
70% of
to
have
have their
day in court.
I'm just saying 70% of criminal
We
records.
would not.
What strengthens Abby Phillip and Ana Kasparian's position is that public reaction isn't just vibes, it's measurable. Multiple Pew and Quinnipiac polls show majorities opposing masked federal raids and warrantless-style street stops, including sizable chunks of independents and Republicans. Criminology research consistently finds that visible militarization reduces community cooperation with law enforcement, making crime harder to solve. That's why even former DHS officials have warned that aggressive optics undermine long-term enforcement goals instead of advancing them, especially during tense political moments nationwide today. Jason Rantz's defense also ignores how enforcement actually shifted. Under Obama, deportations leaned heavily on workplace audits and targeted arrests after convictions, not courthouse dragnets or random street encounters. A 2022 Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse report showed most recent ICE arrests involved nonviolent visa overstays. When enforcement moves into daily public spaces, courts see more Fourth Amendment challenges, cities pay settlements, and trust collapses, which historically sparks protests rather than compliance, as seen after SB 1070 and post-2020 federal deployments nationwide, repeatedly across states. Backing Abby Phillip and Ana Kasparian isn't about opposing borders. It's about constitutional consistency. Federal judges have ruled that immigration enforcement cannot rely on appearance or fear-based tactics. History shows heavy-handed crackdowns radicalize opinion fast, even among conservatives, which explains why voices like Joe Rogan resonate. When people feel something is deeply un-American, narratives collapse regardless of ideology. That's a political warning sign, not media bias, and dismissing it risks repeating past failures, especially during volatile election cycles and periods of institutional distrust nationally.
But answer your own question, Abby.
Listen,
why aren't those police departments, why aren't those cities,
Joe,
towns, and counties
Joe,
complying
none
with
of-
valid ICE
Why are
details?
they snatching
None
up
of
people
that
when they
is-
show up to
none
the
of that
bars?
is justified.
70% do not have criminal
70%
records.
for, yeah,
70% of
that's-
criminal records have been charged with a crime. 70%
No, they
of the
do not.
Yeah, you're talking-
665,000
No.
people
It is.
who were
You're talking about
deported.
You mean
70%.
because their crime is to be here in an
Let me just say,
undocumented
let me just say
fashion?
about those. Let me just say about those numbers.
Have criminal records or been charged with a crime.
Let me just say about those numbers that there's a lot of dispute about the validity of those numbers, and a lot of independent looks at these populations have found smaller percentages. So there's
You dispute that those people, though,
but
were at some point released by a sanctuary city jurisdiction who could
Hold
have
on
in
a
the
second.
past turned them over to ICE with a valid ICE detainer?
Joe, hold on. During the Obama years, local jurisdictions did not call up ICE and say, hey, we have an immigrant here, come and get them.
They honored detainers.
They honored ICE detainers.
Oh, yeah, but if ICE has a detainer,
They don't honor
ICE
it.
doesn't have a
That's the point
detainer
of the
for all
sanctuary
of these
city laws.
people that they're arresting.
The only people they have for Rikers Island, they have detainers
But
on
Joe,
hundreds of people that
Joe,
just get released.
It is not the case that of the thousands of people that ICE has arrested and detained, that all of them are criminals. That's not the case.
70%. I didn't say all of them. I said 70%
So the
of the
point is, listen,
665,000 people deported to date.
Hold on. I never saw ICE agents coming in guns blazing, 10 or 15 of them with long guns. We never saw them masked up in American streets. We never saw federal agents roaming the streets asking people about their citizenship
you're saying
status.
that the sanctuary city
Joe,
policy
did we
isn't
see
a
those?
contributing
Did we
factor to
see
that?
those things in Trump 1, in Biden, or in
Abby,
Obama?
What changed? The only thing that changed is that cities, towns, and
look,
counties states have
there were
implemented
sanctuary cities when Trump was
Not the only
president the
thing.
first time.
Correct, and he didn't deport people at this level. I'm saying at this level.
Deported
He
a
didn't
lot of
deport people at the same level as Obama. Obama, as you pointed out, deporter-in-chief.
But
what
hold on.
changed other than the fact that the
What
Democratic
changed
Party,
was
the Democratic Party
rhetoric,
defends
demonizing immigrants and
Joe, what you're
and
saying
the
is not
theater
making
that
any
surrounds
sense.
I'm
it.
asking you, what changed other than
why did
sanctuary
ICE
city
agents
policies,
during Trump
the
one not
reposturing
need
of the
to wear
Democratic
masks?
Party to defend every single person
Why did ICE
illegally?
agents not need to wear masks in Trump one?
Because people weren't assaulting and hitting ICE agents. Is it not true that vehicular attacks on ICE agents are up 3,600% this year? Is that not true?
Well, is it not true that there are way more ICE agents
Is
in
that true?
American cities than there have ever been?
What strengthens Abby Phillip's side is that the data Joe Borelli leans on has been repeatedly challenged by neutral auditors. Tieriak at Syracuse University has shown that a majority of recent IC arrests involve people with no violent convictions, often visa overstays or minor infractions. Courts have also ruled that ICE detainers are requests, not mandatory orders, meaning cities can legally decline without breaking federal law. That legal reality undercuts the claim that local governments are sabotaging enforcement rather than exercising constitutional limits themselves. Another point favoring Abby Phillip is historical comparison. During the Obama years, deportation numbers were high, yet ICE relied more on coordinated jail transfers and warrants, not masked street teams. A 2014 DOJ review warned that aggressive, visible raids increase civil rights violations and lawsuits after Arizona's SB 1070 crime reporting in Latino communities dropped sharply, harming public safety. That pattern explains why today's tactics spark unrest, even among people who otherwise support immigration enforcement, and historically fuel broader political backlash across states nationwide. Claims about soaring assaults on ICE agents also need context, which Abby Phillip's perspective highlights. DHS figures show agent numbers surged first, naturally increasing encounters. FBI data consistently finds immigrants commit violent crime at lower rates than citizens. Militarized responses escalate tensions rather than reduce risk, according to policing studies after Ferguson and Portland. When enforcement feels arbitrary, trust collapses, protests grow, and outcomes worsen. That isn't ideology, it's evidence drawn from decades of law enforcement research and supported by academic consensus today. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing, and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.